Let's talk through using actual surveys to build your app, service, software, product, etc. across the board. Today we're going to be talking about PostHog's survey feature, right? How you can easily collect information from your users. This works for both anonymous people as well as logged in and de-anonymized users. So it's really helpful because if you have an email, you can associate it very easily without having to ask, or you can interview anonymously for people who are maybe on your marketing site about your marketing materials, etc. I'm going to go through and show you how I would recommend setting it up based off of dozens and dozens of PostHog implementations that we have done, as well as just we eat our own dog food here. We have done our own surveys on our website that is not a software, but just an agency site that you are probably watching this video on right now. Let's hop into it. So when I hit new survey up here, I would highly recommend that you don't use their AI feature. When you hit new survey, you're going to be asked all these different types of things. We have the defaults like the NPS score, the Net Promoter Score, the product market fit, etc. I have not found any of these to be hyper useful. Surveying is its own question for its own day about what questions you should ask. But the open feedback is probably the most utilized and the most helpful version of this. There'd be four main things to consider. What are you going to ask? How are you going to ask it? When are you going to ask it? And what are you going to do with those responses? If you don't know the answer to all four, stop here. Pause. We are going to then answer those four questions on a piece of paper, on a scratch paper, wherever you want. And then you are going to proceed and build this out. Okay? So first, we ask is how are we going to ask this question, right? So we want to either do a popover, you can do the API if you want to show it or not show it. I would recommend that you do the kind of general popover. It's probably going to be the most helpful to you. It's the easiest to implement and the easiest to execute. They're all fairly straightforward, but you can just use that. Then you're going to have what are you going to be actually asking, right? What do you ask them? We are going with a free-form text question. You can either use text or like an HTML thing if you want to get fancy with it. Again, most of the time, if you're on the free PostHog or the usage-based PostHog and you're not paying for the Boost or any of those other versions of PostHog, you're going to keep the PostHog branding anyways. So I found it to be more helpful in the sense of just keep it here. You can add in text here where it says, hey, we use this, or say everyone who fills this out gets 1,000 credits. So that's one thing that you can do, right? You can add text to this and you can ask what you're going to ask. My personal favorite, though, is once you pair in what you're asking with when you're going to ask it. So here, again, I'm not going to show you the buttons to push, confirmation messages, etc. You can add more questions, right? So first question is this, next question is something else. That's fairly straightforward. I'm not explaining how quizzes work, but display conditions is where you can start to really, really dive into how do you use this in a way that allows your team to execute against it. I'm going to show you the way that I would do this right now. Let's just say I'm going to fast forward through this section, but I'm going to show you this if we did this for after someone became a lead on our website. Okay, here's what I've set up very quickly, is I just asked, imagine if this was being deployed to everyone who generates a lead on our website. If you download a PDF, if you fill out a PostHog application form, if you do any of those types of things, this would then be deployed. Hey, we all want the most out of your PostHog account. You've got engineers, you've got marketers, you've got product people, all trying to utilize data to make better decisions and push your product further. Let us come in and help. We have a $97 audit that is on visionlabs.com/thehog. You can get that $97 audit, have our team talk to a specialist. We will find your problems, tell you what they are, and build you a better tomorrow so you can go on from there. It's only $97, guaranteed value, and you can go to visionlabs.com/thehog. How will we do that? That's where we get to have these display conditions. By default, it will say all users. We want to have users who match a specific thing. If you are using feature flags, right, because you're testing your product, they're a great option. Anybody who is within that feature flag gets access to this feature of being able to submit feedback. Personally, big fan of using events, because if you follow our structures of using events in the categories and hyphenated and doing it the correct way that we recommend it, it makes it so much easier to add more events to your entire system. And events are really, really cheap compared to feature flags, compared to all these other things. So what you can do is, if I was going to do this for us, we have a default lead generate event. So after someone generates a lead, they submit their email. We now know who they are. We have our PostHog implemented correctly. So we are de-anonymizing or anonymizing them. So we have their email address and their properties associated with them. We've built that person profile. And then now we're going to have this feedback of what would knock their socks off. And if we were to do this correctly, we could then integrate this to send an email or ping our team and then do anything with this information that we'd like to do. So then we can ask, hey, how often do you want to do this? Keep collecting responses stop survey after a certain number of completions. So say if we complete 10 times, then we're going to do that. You get the idea. I'm not walking you through this here. And then lastly, the one thing I want to make sure that you do have on your display conditions is ensuring that you have the number of times that you would want to display the survey every time an event occurs, instead of only once per user. So default, it is once per user. If you have something that has multiple times that you want to collect something, say for example, it's after doing an action. Say you invite someone to an account and you want to ask every time, who is this person, or those type of questions, you might want to have this displayed every time. So there we go. That is open feedback for a very simple use case. Someone became a lead, they are not in our application because we don't have an application, and they are there. So what do you do with this information, and how does it look after you have it? Here's one that we ran for a while. This was a default exit intent thing. I'm going to blur emails and any type of like IDs, but I'm going to show you the full response. So we asked two things. This was based off of exit intent. So if someone left the page or intended on leaving the page, we use the JavaScript listener to listen for that. And then from that, we then fire this event. So we had an event that was called, I put it somewhere. Exit intended, I think, is the name of the event. And that was there. And then, sorry to see you leave. Here we go. And then if we can prove, that is there. We can use this to really filter if we wanted to say, hey, people who were not sure about X, Y, or Z, we only received 20 responses. And you can see here the number who submitted, the number of dismissed, and the number of who people just never answered it. So it stayed on the page, but they never dismissed it. And so here we have our top responses, right? We have 20 responses. So I'm not sure what your service is. That's our top response. So we should probably get more dialed in on what we are actually offering to the common person. I didn't have enough information. I found a better service elsewhere. And then we can see here, if you know their email address, right? So we have these different people here of different types of feedback. And then we can see all of these different email addresses as they were collected or not collected. You can see them right there. And so now you're able to very, very quickly iterate on this thing, and you can keep on going. The one last piece you can do is build a notification. So after you get forms being submitted, you can actually have notifications, and you can only set that up once you have it actually running. So if we were to turn this back on, firing on that exit intended, we can have a notification, hey, let's ping a Slack channel, let's notify our CRM, let's put all these pieces of information in some other location, and that allows us to keep things moving. So that is where surveys live, how they live, and what they do. You're also able to add them to notebooks, which is helpful. I just haven't seen that use case be really, I feel like notebooks is a feature that in theory I love, in practice no one uses. But you can add these to your notebooks inside of PostHog if you are using them. So there you go. Now you know the fundamentals. If you are creating your first feedback, if you are building more feedback features and using surveys to get towards a better tomorrow with your product, you now know how to do that. You can see exactly where that are, and you know what it's going to look like after you are done.